Over the last year or so, the WWE has truly spread its webs all over the world. In fact, I would say that they're finally genuinely embracing the first W in WWE, finally truly making them the world wrestling entertainment. Just in recent memory, they've been in Canada, Saudi Arabia, in England, in Wales, they've been in India, they're going to Australia, they're going to France, in Puerto Rico, and before somebody in the comments says, Puerto Rico's in the United States, I know, okay, all right. It's like the United States with like a lot of seasoning. But with news of the WWE continuing this trend to continue to go global by having Bash at Berlin and Backlash France, I wanted to talk about what places I would like to see the WWE really stick its flag in. Obviously, I would love for the WWE to go everywhere, but the fact of the matter is that not everywhere is going to deliver a fantastic audience. So I've come up with a list of places that I think the WWE should become a semi-permanent stay, because I know that there's going to be a great audience there and it's going to end up making for a fantastic show. And don't get mad if your city isn't on here. This isn't my list of favorite cities in the world, okay? All right, just chill. And hey, as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring that bell for notifications if you're a wrestling fan. I know you're going to fall in love with this channel because we upload daily wrestling content. And once again, thank you to all the patrons over at patreon.com/SantiZap for all of your support throughout the last couple of months. There's over 125 supporters already on Patreon, and those supporters are getting the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days early. They're getting the SmackDown reviews, the Monday Night Raw reviews, the upcoming Q&As, and everything in between. So if you want even more wrestling content, come check it out, patreon.com/SantiZap. I think that there's going to be something there that you like, and thank you again to all the patrons for helping keep the lights on and helping keep this mic on. All right, let's jump into it. All right, this is kind of a bonus one, but I do want to talk about San Juan, Puerto Rico. I do think that San Juan has earned themselves a spot in the constant rotation of WWE PLEs. That show, Backlash 2023, is going down as one of my favorite PLEs of the entire decade. It's a young decade, but my goodness, what a show it was. And part of the reason, actually, the main reason that the show was so good is just how involved the crowd was. Because Puerto Rico, not just San Juan, has a rich history of professional wrestling. Professional wrestling is big there in its own right. And of course, the WWE, which is the biggest wrestling organization on the planet, is of course going to find a lot of fans there. And you combine the fact that the WWE is a huge wrestling company, the fact that Puerto Ricans have a love and a tradition of professional wrestling, and you combine that with Bad Bunny, the biggest Puerto Rican export ever. You're kidding? Are you kidding me? That's a crazy combination. So long as Bad Bunny continues to be part of the WWE family, I say keep giving them PLEs, because this combination of everything that I just mentioned just makes for an insane crowd and an insane show. Like, it doesn't matter how crazy a crowd is, because there are crazy crowds all over the United States and all over the world. You're never gonna replicate this moment. Straight up. This is a once in a lifetime. I hear voices in the air. I'm gonna keep making that joke until it's not funny. I already think it isn't funny anyways. But you can't replicate this. You cannot replicate this anywhere that you go, because like I said, it is this perfect little soup that has Bad Bunny, WWE, and a huge WWE fandom put together into this amazing bow that was Backlash Puerto Rico. And it doesn't have to be Backlash every year. It doesn't have to be every year either. But I think we should be looking at going to Puerto Rico on a semi-regular basis, every 2 years, every 3 years. Just don't let them wait 15 years like you did this time around. They need to get way more shows, because you can make a star in front of that crowd. That's how good that crowd is. All right, next one that's actually outside of the United States is a bit of an obvious one, but as you can see here, we have Canadian Prime Minister Ryan Reynolds. We should be going to Canada on a very regular basis. Now, WWE does go to Canada on a regular basis, don't get me wrong. They're, for the most part, almost every year, not every year, there's always a Raw or a SmackDown here. And there have been semi-regular PLEs here. I think they should just cement their place in Canada every single year. Whether it's Toronto or Montreal, we can go one or the other, because because if you want to do Toronto, you know that you're going to get a great crowd there. It's a huge metropolitan city. You've already done major shows there, like the most recent SummerSlam 2019. And here's the thing, like, you got to stick your flag in Toronto, because AEW has a habit of, when they get to a city and they do one of their pay-per-views there, they just continue doing it there. And that's where Forbidden Door was. Forbidden Door was in Toronto this past year. I was there, front row. Hell of a show. Holy fucking insane crowd. Again, it's one of those crowds where the crowd helps make the show. And I don't know, man, if I'm a WWE guy and I'm looking at where AEW's trying to spread, I'm trying to stick my flag in Toronto so that Forbidden Door doesn't become like the Toronto show, where Toronto doesn't become an AEW city. And again, Toronto has a history of being able to book these major shows. I've already mentioned SummerSlam. They've even had a WrestleMania there before. But if you don't want to do Toronto that year, you can alternate and go have a crazy, wild, insane French-Canadian crowd over in Montreal. Montreal? I don't know. My accents aren't great. But we saw Montreal have a fantastic crowd and a great show at Elimination Chamber this past year. WWE also has a great history in Montreal as well, and it's a history of great crowds. And we have a set of French-Canadian WWE superstars that are near the top of the main event that you can continuously market to, of course, make the crowd there happy, in Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I think that the WWE should just alternate every year between Montreal and Toronto for who gets the major premium live event that year. And every year, whenever they go to either of these shows, either of these cities, I should say, it's going to be fantastic. And no, this isn't just because I'm from like the Toronto area, but it's just objectively true. Canadian crowds are insane. Next up, and I think it should be here every year at some point or another, London, England. It's Tuesday, ain't it? God damn it. I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. But look, like, London arguably may be the best professional wrestling crowd on the planet. Anything that you put in front of them, they are going to make a showcase out of it. Whether they boo you out of the damn building, whether they of course bring you in as one of their own and cheer you until the end of time, or even when they're bored, they'll just sing a song and make it interesting. I know that the WWE doesn't love these types of crowds because they are counterculture crowds where you don't know if they're going to boo the guy that they're supposed to boo, and you don't know if they're going to cheer the guy that they're supposed to cheer. But I think that's what makes London such a special place for the WWE and for WWE fans watching from their TV screens. I think that the WWE played it way too safe with Money in the Bank in London. I think that they could have done a major soccer stadium, football stadium. Relax, okay? I'm Latino. I was born and raised with football. It's just that everyone around me says soccer, but I think that they played it way too safe with Money in the Bank. I think that they could have easily filled out a much larger venue than what they already had. On top of that, in my eyes, Money in the Bank is a top 4 pay-per-view. I think it's kicked out Survivor Series. So with it being such a major show for the WWE calendar year, they could have easily filled out a major stadium for this show. And you know, I kind of talked about this with Toronto, but AEW is slowly making London an AEW city. Whether it actually is an AEW city and most people in London prefer AEW, I don't think that's the case, but optics, people from the outside looking in, they see what they did with All In London, nearly 90,000 people, and I start to associate Wembley, AEW with London. Like, that's just how things are right now. So if the WWE wants to make sure that they don't lose a foothold in one of the biggest wrestling markets on the planet, they need to not just do a show like All In. I think they need to outdo All In. And call me crazy, but I think it's WrestleMania London. Out of all of the cities that I've mentioned prior to this, I don't think that they necessarily need a WrestleMania. I think London needs a WrestleMania, and it could be Wembley, it could be Old Trafford, it could be any major, but it needs to be a major, giant showcase in one of the biggest wrestling markets, one of the loudest, rowdiest crowds on the planet, and you need to remove with a semblance of AEW from London. Again, if I'm a WWE exec, I want to make sure that London is seen as a WWE crowd, not an AEW crowd, because All In has changed that narrative. Now, out of every city, every country so far that we've talked about, they all have a rich history of professional wrestling, but all of them, Every single one of them pales in comparison to Mexico. So I say, let's bring a major PLE to Mexico City. Now, I know things get sketchy over there, and they get sketchy because there is a huge monopoly for lucha libre professional wrestling in Mexico run by AAA and CMLL. And I know that these organizations would do everything in their power to keep the WWE out of their market. And I mean everything. You can read between the lines as to what I'm trying to say there, but I mean everything. But if the WWE can navigate the murky landscape of Mexican politics, I think that they could put on an amazing show in the legendary Azteca Stadium, because this is arguably the most famous stadium on the planet in terms of everything that's happened in here. Shit, man, if it's good enough for Maradona picking up that World Cup in 1986, it's good for a major wrestling show. But as I've mentioned, Mexico has a massive history of professional wrestling domestically already with CMLL and AAA. But the WWE also has a rich background with its Mexican wrestlers, either wrestlers from Mexico or wrestlers of Mexican descent. We're talking about the likes of course, Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, Carrillo, Garza. We have Dragon Lee now, and of course, Dominic Mysterio. And that's just the names that are available right now. Like, the WWE has a rich history of Mexican American and Mexican wrestlers that have come and gone through the WWE system. So I think that the crowd would be bananas to be able to have a major show like, I don't know, it could be, let's call it Clash at the Capitol. I don't know. I kind of just stole Clash at the Castle there, but you know what I'm saying. Like, there, you could do a great, maybe once in a blue moon, once every 2, 3, 5 years show in Mexico City, and I think it'd be fantastic. It's time to go to Tokyo next. And the WWE does go to Tokyo every once in a while. They did a live show called Beast in the East a few years ago, but that was not a proper PLE. That was a special live event that was aired on the WWE network at the time. But again, similar to Mexico, there's already a big player in town, that being New Japan Pro Wrestling. The other thing that is worth mentioning is that this is an entirely different type of crowd. This is not a crowd like a London that is rowdy, that is yelling, that is singing the entire time. This is a crowd that sits in respect and claps and waits for the appropriate time to make noise. So it'd be a bit weird for people watching at home experiencing a Japanese crowd watching a WWE product. But I think that's a type of unique that I think is worth showcasing. And in current day WWE, the WWE has a fantastic crop of very well-known Japanese wrestlers, as well as wrestlers that are popular in Japan that aren't Japanese. Look no further than the likes of Shinsuke Nakamura, who's headlined the Tokyo Dome, who's sold out so many arenas and stadiums in Japan. We have the deadly trio of Kairi Sane, Io Sky, and Asuka. And you know what? Like, you want to pander? Why not? Let's make this a WWE Women's Championship match. People would go crazy for that. And we, of course, have two Japanese wrestling legends in their own right in AJ Styles and Finn Balor. If we want to even add a little bit more fuel to this fire, the WWE is looking to potentially sign Okada, who is arguably the biggest name in Japan at this moment. He's that guy that's kind of the meme in the wrestling community that's like, oh my God, 10 out of 5 stars, Tokyo Dome Okada match. Speaking of Tokyo Dome, let's go to the Tokyo Dome, WWE. We can take this show there. We can demonstrate. Hang on, I keep saying we as if I run the WWE. I'm just putting my head inside like a WWE executive person. I'm not just like some shill that lives and breathes WWE to the point that they think that I'm associated with them. I'm not. But the WWE definitely has the names of relevance in Japan, and names that are, of course, relevant all over the world, like the Roman Reigns of the world, the Cody Rhodes, etc., to fill up the Tokyo Dome. Absolutely they can. So then finally we can have the meme of 7 out of 5 stars Tokyo Dome WWE Roman Reigns match. To me, this is shocking that this hasn't happened yet. Why isn't the WWE regularly in Dublin? Look, they go there almost every year, but it's for their house shows, for their WWE International Live Tour, that they don't ever have major shows, major PLEs there. They were scheduled to have one in 2021 in NXT TakeOver Dublin. And I mean, I look at just the faces in here: Walter, aka Gunther, Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Ilya Dragunov, the Coffee Brothers back there. This show would have been fantastic, but it got canceled because of the pandemonium. I don't know if I can still say the word on YouTube, because I think you can get demonetized for saying that. But similar to what I was saying about Japan, the WWE has a crop of megastars that are from Ireland. Look no further than, of course, the man Becky Lynch. We have Finn Balor. We have Sheamus. But not just that, we have other fantastic European wrestlers that we can continue to add to the flavor of this show. Frankly, it would be a very similar vibe and a very similar crowd to what we saw at Clash at the Castle, and that crowd in Wales did not disappoint, and I think we could get something similar or maybe even greater than what we had in Wales. Honestly, just the thought of that Dublin crowd, oh man, it's got my penis doubling in size. What the why did I put that in this script? That's a terrible joke. Look, I want a show in Dublin. All right, that's all I'm trying to say. God, why did I say that? Okay, I'm done. Get out of here. Never come back, please. After that joke.